Hello and welcome to ABW Live, or as John would call it, ABW, a Bergkamp Wonderland live radio show. Oh, I forgot who I am.com. And with me tonight we have Eoin, who was a planned guest. How are you, Eoin?
I'm good, mate. That's what I was just saying there before the show, that this was sort of like, I'm sorry for the harsh analogy, but like my dad beating my mum. It was as much as I absolutely love Arsenal, I only live 15 miles away from Dundalk, so it was sort of hard to watch them, you know, but God love them. They put the effort in, but it was just a little too much for them in the end.
At the start of the show, where can people find you? Because you have a very good new podcast. You did a really good show yesterday with Mike Hertz and a Wigan fan and an Arsenal fan that are both also Irish. Mike isn't Irish before anybody starts making accusations. Where can they find your new wonderful podcast I really like? And I think I was a guest on once recently.
You were indeed, and thanks for the kind words, buddy. So you can find me over at Gunnercrack on Twitter, or it's the same on YouTube as well. And if you want to go there, the podcast you mentioned was actually with Ross and Griff, who are the hosts of League of Ireland TV. And it was actually quite funny. I was just saying there, they live quite a bit further away from Dundalk than I do, and I had to get them two lads onto the channel to fill me in on everything Dundalk. So if you want to sort of dive in and find a bit more out about Dundalk before the reverse fixture, I doubt you're going to find a podcast with so much information on them. It's about an hour-long podcast, and they really sort of break down exactly who Dundalk are and what you can expect from them. So
I think I'm good, but thank you. It sounds like great programming. I mean, I would tune in just for you, but you know.
Yeah, it could be a bit. It could be a bit
to learn about Dundalk today.
It could be a bit too complex for yourself, Mike. I would say maybe you should.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with that.
Also, we have here the wonderful, the effervescent. I'm in a WhatsApp group with him and Mike, and it said, "Get me on, or more nudes of yours will end up on the interwebs." So I thought, better behave myself, Mike, my dear.
I have more nudes of you than you think that I have of you, and that's what's scary, because you know about a certain number of them. But when we win, I'm happy, and when I'm happy, I want to share it. So thank you very much to both of you for allowing me to ply my trade with the two of you wonderful gentlemen.
I had no choice. I would have said no.
No, you didn't have a choice. But,
You're one of the few people that can message me and go, "I'm free, let me on," and then I let you on.
I could not have dreamed 4 years ago of reaching that status. So, I shaved my head, I grew my beard, I did everything I possibly could. And folks, all you have to do is just, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. And I finally done it.
Very true. That is. We are actually on Periscope. FK, the darling that is FK, said he's been using Periscope, and I thought, I wonder if ABW has a Periscope. Turns out ABW has a Periscope that I set up about 5 years ago. So if there's anybody on Periscope to say, "Oh, here we go, there's me. Look, the GFP. Hello." All you need to do is log in. You click on the link with your Twitter account, and you log in from there, and then you're
still resisting going on Pornhub, though. I mean, we showed you how to do that, and you.
What was that you sent me the other day? You sent me a link. Was it you brushing your teeth? I accidentally scrolled down, Mike. I scrolled down by accident.
You learned a little bit about how babies are made?
You're in the same part of Pornhub as all the men are. I didn't even know there was a men's part of Pornhub. That's how, tell you what, I've had a shock.
Well, look, we've got 3 videos up on Pornhub, and there's more to come, as it were.
No, we don't need that. We have lots of lovely people in the chat box. We've got
Stephen as well.
Shush. We've got Folly Ox. That's an Oxford United. Actually, my friend Alan, who lived in Bevan close to me, was a Nottingham Forest fan up until about 1984. And then he said, "I'm going to support Oxford United." That went well for him, didn't it? So then we've also got William Eade. We've got Mike Hertz. Me and Eoin are going to be on Mike's show after this. He's doing a live show just like this one. And I've had McDonald's, so I said...
I might have worked my way into that one as well.
Are you on that as well? Oh, look, why didn't people just watch this one? We should have got Mike and his mates on here, and then he could have saved everyone an hour.
Well, because we're using this one as the practice, and then we're going on not another... Arsenal podcast afterwards.
ABW is the fluffer for Mike. I see. Excellent. We have our South American correspondent, Julian Salmondo. Oh, he's writing in English. Evening, lads. El Bastardo. We've got Luke Howard, Rudy Rastos, Junior Gunner, Mike Hertz, that I might have already said hello to. Someone in Twitch. It is Carnage 1618. It's a wonderful year for McDonald's, that was. Kaiser Sose, who is in there, and he is also in our Discord, which is nice. We're in all the places. Femi Yemi. I think he said Femi. Femi's our pod. No, this is Yemi Fash, one of our YouTube subscribers. He sticks it's probably $1.99 now in Yemi because he is quite flush with the cash. He comes around and he shoves the money through my letterbox once a month, which is wonderful. Dixon's side. Travis is there. All right, Travis, you cheeky monkey. Who else is there? A new name here. Hannes P. Felt we needed to get more goals. That's true. Phil Macker's always there. K-Man is probably on every single one of the apps that we're on. There's Michael in Sweden. There's Loki up north. And here we go. This person looks like, look at that face, Mike.
That's his LinkedIn profile, I'm pretty sure.
He looks like an absolute victim in that photo. That's like a missing child poster. Look at him.
If you look at, he's blinking in Morse code. Help, get me out of here.
Help me get out of this podcast that we almost never do anymore.
You don't need to. It's quality over quantity, Mike. And
I went with the opposite on Twitter during the game today, but it's nice to mix it up every once in a while.
So lovely. Right, we're going to get straight onto the game. Then it was Arsenal 3, Dundalk 0. Not much of a surprise, but it's look, Data's there. She's been in a good mood. There's nobody here to annoy her.
Not sure I love her husband, but she's always welcome.
She was unbanned and now she's back. So notes. First thing I'm going to ask Owen, the starting lineup. Was there any surprises in the lineup for you, or good or bad surprises will do?
There was. I wasn't really expecting Granit Xhaka to start at all. I really thought he would have been sort of wrapped in bubble wrap before the United game, but I don't know if you would say pleasantly surprised is unpleasantly surprised the thing. Yeah. Once the game kicked off, to see that he was basically a part of a back three, which made much more sense sort of in terms of why he was featuring. To be honest with you, the formation itself was what I thought to be a bit of a negative approach. I stated before the match had started that if we seen a back five, that was, quite negative from the manager. But I suppose in hindsight, when you look at it, a dual pairing of Mustafi and Kolasinac are probably not the most solid to be playing with. So that was maybe a bit of cause for concern for everybody, regardless of the fact of the level of opposition that we were facing. But I consider, as stupid as this may sound, I would consider that Arteta has probably put Xhaka in between the two of them to sort of add a bit of solidity and experience between them. But apart from that, no, it was what I was expecting. People maybe could have been slightly surprised at the fact that Nicola Pepe got the start, but I wasn't at all surprised because I think Nicola Pepe is a player who really thrives on confidence, and Arteta probably saw this as a good opportunity to push him out and really let him sort of gain some of that before some of the bigger fixtures that we'll have coming up in a few weeks.
Yes. How do you think? At what point do you reckon Mikel Arteta told Runner the Gunner that he's going to be playing behind a back three that includes Kolasinac and Xhaka? Because he should not have told him last night, because he would not have got any sleep. Because that's one hell of a way to make your debut, isn't it, in front of them clowns?
Yeah, it is for sure. But something that I was surprised about was actually how vocally commanding that he seemed to be throughout the 90 minutes. I even have one of my first notes here, and it was literally within the first couple of minutes. He came out, collected the ball, and how fast he distributed it was really positive. I thought, there was only so many small snippets that we can take sample sizes from throughout that entire 90 minutes. But one thing I think he was consistently good at was when he did receive the ball, he was sort of sprinted to the edge of the 18-yard box and really got the ball moving as fast as possible, which is a criticism I would have of Leno at times, is that I think sometimes he sort of slows down the progression of the ball up the field, sort of holding the ball very much like we would have seen with Simon Mignolet at Liverpool, really grasping and holding the ball and taking a bit of the sting out of our attack. yeah, but no, even I think there was a free kick later on in the game, which maybe we'll end up touching on, in a bit more detail later on. But when he was organising the wall, and he was extremely vocal. So for somebody that I had my doubts about, although he didn't have much to do, sort of my initial reaction to him is a positive one, probably more positive than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I noticed the shouting, and then he had a couple of things in the first half. We had to jump and caught the ball. I thought Leno probably looking at that and go, "What are you doing? Catching the ball? Punch it, you fucking idiot!" Anyway, talking to fucking idiots. No, that's too cruel. Mike, Andy told me to say that. Mike, what did you think about the lineups? And was there anybody that you wanted to see, or anybody that you didn't see, and anybody that you did see that you didn't want to see?
Jesus, that was pretty quick. Look, Runnerson, he's. I mean, Emmy who is all I'm going to say. I mean, he pulled it off. He's commanding. We can sell him for $20 million tomorrow. I was happy to have him play. The lineup we expect. I mean, you're always going to expect to see a mixture of a couple of first team guys who need minutes, might need confidence. That's your Pepe, your Xhaka of the world. But all I wanted to see today was Bellerin. That's all I cared about today. Was seeing Bellerin, getting him some minutes, getting him a cap for Arsenal, and I was a little disappointed he didn't get a brace. Predicting that all along, but I mean it's a Europa League lineup. It's a Europa League lineup against the worst team in the group, and you really can't question it one way or the other. We have a much bigger game on Sunday, and so I don't really find fault with any of the selections that he had. I mean, sorry, it just really didn't matter that much. I think we should have been able to beat them with a pure second team, and we did. So
can't argue with that, can you? That there is logic.
Could, but
Owen, or I'll call you. What does Mike keep calling you?
Ian.
I keep calling him my beloved.
Well, to be fair, I always called him arsehole. So
I mean, there's Ars Blog, there's Ars Hole. I mean, I'm happy to be in that company.
Owen, see, I was nearly going to say Ian then. Mike Jones says here, you don't need 3 central defenders against a team that does not have the ability to cross midfield. Has he got a fair point there?
I think he does, yeah. And that's what I said a couple of minutes ago, is really that I thought that would be such a negative approach. And there's a real knock-on effect. And I think something that was apparent throughout the entire 90 minutes was how isolated Eddie Nketiah was. I actually have a comment down on my sheet here where basically Burnley, it was that even visibly, you don't even have to be sort of in touch tactically with the game to see that within that sort of central attack and midfield area that there's just a vast empty space there a lot of the times. I think Joe Willock did well over the 90 minutes to sort of make them runs into the box and get beyond the forwards and stuff, but it was really evident throughout the entire game, and I think that's a knock-on effect of playing the three at the back. And now we could look to the manager and say that that's his fault, and it probably partially is, but I think that since Mikel Arteta has come into Arsenal, rather than play to the players' strengths, of the people within our squad, he often sets up to sort of to structure the team around the weaknesses that we have, more so. So I think it's the fact that he doesn't have a lot of trust within a lot of players within these systems, the likes of Mustafi, the likes of Kolasinac, So I'd say that starting the 3 defenders really sort of limits what we can actually do within that thing. The only thing I would say is that the beginning of the second half, I thought we started to see Ainsley Maitland-Niles playing in that sort of inverted midfielder, which he was sort of doing throughout the game, but he really sort of made more of a point to get central at the beginning of that second half, and I think you sort of started to see that paying off. We really sort of congested the midfield and we stopped them coming out at all. So yeah, but it's definitely it's something that I think we need to look at in January in terms of that attacking midfield position. I know that that question was around the defence, but it's all about the knock-on effects that playing with that system sort of has on the side.
Yeah, an attacking midfielder, a couple of them.
Is that what
that could fit that role? I mean,
he's a retired
Ozil or something like that.
Yeah, well, see that's actually a good point, Mike, because I think that was something that a lot of people wanted to see was Emile Smith Rowe. If you're talking about somebody who fits the mold of the type of player that we lack, forget about his actual progression, but just the actual raw mold of the player, Emile Smith Rowe is probably the player that we are looking at most. But my only issue is that from what I've seen from Emile Smith Rowe, I'm not sure he's progressed enough in his development to take on that kind of pressure this early on in his career. Especially, we know how reactionary our fan base. What happens if he has a couple of bad games? He's sort of pushed off to the side and labelled straight away. So I'm not sure, sort of in the short term, that he's our solution right now.
Looking at the formation, I think there's quite a lot you two have suggested the reason why we played that formation is because that's the formation that we have been playing in the league recently, and it is the formation until we get used to everybody playing with two centre-backs and then two full-backs. But I think even when we have got a settled two centre-back pairing, we could still see this occasionally because it gives us so much width. And like you were saying with Maitland-Niles doing the inverted wing back is when they're playing on he's playing on the left hand side and they all drift into the middle of midfield, isn't it? I had no idea about that until Dark Josh explained it to me. But Mike, if you would have had if you would have had Smith Rowe playing, of all of those players in the team, where would you have played him? Because we had Willock was the one getting up, playing in maybe the attacking midfield role. Elneny was the one dropping back, and at times it even looked like Xhaka was playing quarterback, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking me about tactics, and you should know better than that. But
a very simple one. I wouldn't be able to ask it myself.
I mean, is the place where Smith Rowe is supposed to thrive more in the kind of Ozil position that used to exist behind the kind of making that final pass through to our attacking players? So I mean, I suppose that would have been where Willock was today. I'd like to see the kid play. You keep hearing about how he's the future, and he never quite makes the 18. So is there a niggling injury? Is is he just not quite ready for prime time yet? How's he doing for the U23s? Owen, you watch every one of those games, so.
It was more, I think, his loan spell at Huddersfield sort of gave everybody a bit of promise. He was very effective within their side, and he really contributed to, I think, them staying up. Within that season, I think it was solely down to him. A lot of people hold that. The only thing what's missing
for the last 6 to 8 weeks of this new season, where this should be kind of his. Last year we saw Willock get integrated into the squad. We saw Nketiah come into the squad. Smith Rowe, this was supposed to be his season.
But he's just recovering from an injury. He was expected back this week, but they expect for the Mold game that he'll be back. But in terms of the midfield, the one thing I have sort of been screaming and preaching about. Sorry, Danny, just before we move on,
carry on.
Things up. But I actually think that this isn't a personnel thing. I think that this is a mentality thing, because nobody can tell me that them players don't have the ability to drop the shoulder, turn and release a pass. All of them are quite high-level professional footballers. Even against Dundalk there this evening, we've seen that from a lot of the players, that they weren't willing to turn, open up their body and play the ball forward into space centrally. It was all out wide all the time. And I actually found it very frustrating, particularly in the first half. And that's, as I said, Eddie was isolated. And if you can visibly look and see the problem there, that should be corrected quite early on. I know we were quite effective in creating chances down the wing, but when you're playing against a team like Dundalk, who, big physical side at the back, that's what they wanted us to do. That play down the wings, get the balls into the box, and their big guys headed away. I think it was sort of the work in the first half of moving the ball side to side that eventually sort of broke them down, and you sort of started to see that gulf in fitness, and that's what got us the result. But I think that even though we can look at the statistics here of a note at 78 minutes, we had 20 chances created, 6 on target. But I don't think you should walk away looking at them statistics as a positive, because you have to remember the quality of side that we were playing against there. If we played in that manner, in that form against any team in the league, I'm convinced we come away with a loss. I don't want to sound negative, but it was just the fate.
We don't use the same personnel if we're playing against a team in the Premier League.
But it doesn't matter about the personnel. The personnel was changed, but the system remained the same. I'm a massive fan of Arteta, but I think maybe that he's over worrying about our frailties rather than sort of committing to the strengths that we have.
You could see that was the game plan. Like Rodgers had a game plan against us, wear us down for an hour, bring on Vardy, let Vardy score. We could see that our plan tonight was, although Dundalk are a fully professional team, and then there's no part-timers there, there's no fridge repairman, there's no plumbers in there. But you could see that they're never going to be as fit as a Premier League team. And that's what it was, wear them out, like you were saying, Owen, the number of shots that we had, the number of time that we were attacking down that side. I thought their left back did a really good job trying to contain Pepe, because he was turning him inside out and blocking him, and Pepe was getting no joy for so much of the first half. But you could see that people start to relax a little bit. It's coming up to half time, and we scored our goals in 42, 44 and 46 minutes, all either side of the half time. And we've known when we played lower league teams, that is quite often when teams do get tired. But well done to Dundalk for managing not to let in another 4 or 5 goals as they tired in the second half, even with the substitutions, and they were still doing really, really well. And I think that just shows the resilience of those players and the teamwork that they've shown together. Even though
I fully expected after the third one in so early in the second half that this could have been sixes and sevens.
Yeah, but there's your bell.
But so something even just to touch on there while you're covering Dundalk is that Stephen Kenny, who's now the first coach of the Irish national team, was the Dundalk coach, and over here everybody plays like Burnley, long ball football into the big fella waiting in the box and just try to knock a goal in. But Stephen Kenny really transformed Dundalk into probably the first. He really pioneered that sort of free flow and expansive type of football that we see sort of on the main continent more so than in the lower leagues of the likes of Ireland. And I actually thought going into this game that the standard Irish approach is that if there's a gulf in quality, you often try to make up for it with physicality. You'll go out, you'll try and rough them up, you'll try and make them uncomfortable. But I was actually delighted to see that even throughout the entire 90 minutes after 3 goals had gone in, Dundalk didn't turn away from their principles of play. They tried to play the ball out from the back. They were brave in possession. Even if it didn't come off, you can at least tip your hat to the fact that they're trying to play football the right way. I was quite pleased to see that.
Yeah, they've done well. They Dundalk fans.
Yeah, fair comment. That
your team did well.
You don't want to see the team just turn into a bunch of Burnleys.
Mm-hmm. Right, let's move on to some of the notes I've made during the game, because I know Owen's made quite a few. 8th minute, Eddie fell over, penalty. Did anybody think it was a penalty? I didn't.
No, I don't think so.
Not enough contact, but 10 out of 10 for the for the flip.
Good. Right, next note, and I've got is 13th minute. So if you've got any notes on times, Owen, as you go along, just shout. 13th minute, some good play down the right from Pepe, Suarez, and Willock. We saw quite a lot of that in the first half, didn't we, Mike? Suarez was actually one of our most attacking players, which reminded me a little bit of the first half against Leicester with Bellerin, when he was one of our most attacking players down the right hand side, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he's got the capacity to stretch out teams that are shit. We haven't seen that in any other game. I mean, the guy peaked in his first 15 seconds in an Arsenal shirt, I think. I don't remember who that was against. Was it Norwich that he scored that goal against, like right after he came on last season? But my favorite part of the bastard. My favorite part of the first half was our first shot on goal, which was Pepe's corner kick that actually hit the goal on the side. But look. Side front.
I actually have that. So on 13 minutes, I have so predictable.
Was I supposed to be keeping track of the game?
I said 13th minute. I said so predictable, playing down the wings every time, which I've touched on, and then straight after that, 14th minute, Pepe can't take corners. Like it's, but there's something in that, because the set piece coaches.
Did we score a goal off a corner kick today?
We did, yeah, eventually, yeah. But
that was all Pepe, and it was all Nketiah. It had nothing to do with the defense.
To defend Pepe, and it's the execution that can probably be wrong. We have a set piece coach has come in, and we're hitting the first man every time, and I think that's intended not to hit their first man, but to hit our first man and get the flick on
like we had against Leicester.
And that's why we're seeing it so much, even though the execution still I understand that, but you have to understand what they're trying to do to maybe have a little more sympathy to what's actually happening, I think.
You know who was also shit at corners for us? Mesut Ozil, Santi Cazorla. Neither one of them could strike a corner kick for shit. And it's not our thing. So, I think we're a little too hyper aware of when corner kicks aren't struck perfectly. There are people that can do it pretty well. I just remember watching Matthew Valbuena, who never played in the Premier League, but just watching him play for Marseille, and every single corner kick was on someone's head. But that's rare. I mean, that's a rarity. Pepe can take a corner kick. He just doesn't take them all well.
Not much we can do about that.
Just get a bunch of corner kicks, and you'll start worrying about the ones that we don't do. If we only get 3 a game and they're all shit, then
we've been notoriously shit at corners since Steve Williams left to go to Luton in about 1988. That was the last time we had a decent corner taker.
Remember that, Owen?
Mr. Tar. He says, here, because Tom sent me. Was that Mr. Canton? Has Mr. Canton sent you our way? Oh,
I can't imagine that because he's doing his own show right now. So why would he?
No, he's not
he must have really pissed Tom off and said, "Why don't you just leave and go to Danny's show?"
No, I've realised that we're only on the 25th minute, and we're on the 25th minute of the show, and we're only on the 13th minute of the match. This show's taking longer than the actual match.
Right, we should get a move on then. The next note I've got is 23rd minute. 22nd minute. Great work by Nelson down the left. Pepe puts a header over. Yeah, he looked like at least he's having a shot. That's what you got to look at. 23rd minute, Nelson had a shot and puts it a fraction wide as to his left to the goalie's right, and that's we've seen some really good shots there. I've put 5 shots, 1 blocked, 4 off target. That's pretty good.
What minute was Kolasinac's almost goal from his head? Because that, to me, that's the highlight of the game.
That was.
I was proud to own a Kolasinac shirt. For the second time ever. For the third time ever. The first was when I bought it, which was after the Charity Shield against Chelsea, when he had his one and only good game for us. The second one was when he fought off murderers, and then the third one was today when he almost scored a goal off of his head.
If only. 33rd minute, Willock down the right into the box, crosses the width of the box, and Kola heads over. Owen, that was a hell of a bit of play. Magnificent work by Willock, who is a player that I really like.
It was great, and I think a theme we've seen throughout this here, and I actually have to admit that I've been wrong. I think for tonight anyway, because Reiss Nelson and Joe Willock were probably the 2 most inspirational players on the pitch. That play in particular, I think that it deserved more. It deserved a bit more anticipation from Eddie, and it needed him to commit to it. But definitely his driving runs were sort of a real positive theme throughout the game.
It was really good to see. See, we're moving it up already. Then we're going to go 34th minute. Cedric runs into the box, puts it in the path of Eddie, and Eddie misses it. Very unlucky for Eddie, but I think that the speed of Cedric and the way that he crossed the ball, a little bit like when we saw against Leicester, where some of the balls were coming in so fast that the strikers couldn't get there in time to do anything about it. And then I noticed in the 35th minute, Mike, and actually I won't come to you with tactics. In 35th minute, Pepe and Nelson swapped sides. Was that something that they were told to do, do you think? Or do you think that was something they decided to do off their own back because they both had spent ages banging down each side, hadn't they?
Yeah, no, I think that was probably sort of down to their own discretion. I think we actually seen that multiple times, even in just different phases of play, coming from set pieces and stuff that us maybe stuck to the one or the opposite side that they were assigned to. And I just think often that is just to keep, especially them sort of lower level players, keep them on their toes and keep them guessing, and also I think really what Reiss Nelson was trying to do was follow Joe Willock around the pitch. He was really making everything happen, and I think Reiss looked like he was out with a point to prove tonight. And he's obviously going to try and put himself in the best place to shine throughout the match, and I really think that's what he was doing.
I love how you switched up to go to Owen when you were talking about tactics, and then in any game where one of the Arsenal players leaves the pitch to go have a poo, he calls me up immediately. Can you please come on the pod? We need your.
So your next question was, what color do you think the grass was?
Someone has to answer the tough questions.
Really good point here from Duncan Knapp. Sounds like an old school goo. Now, the midfield tonight was made up of young lads who are still trying to establish themselves.
You know
Davis, Rocastle, and Thomas weren't established overnight, were they, Mike?
Absolutely not. And I wish that we were back in the day where you could bring that kind of youth through the club, meld them together, and let them play. But that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you will never see that kind of threesome in a midfield go from the youth squad to the first team and just get the time to meld together because of this we've got to win now situation, because of this, back in 1984 to 88 when those three were built, you weren't bringing in players from Europe constantly. So I mean, it's just a different game. I couldn't be a bigger fan of those three. And Duncan, you mentioned the name of my favorite all-time Arsenal player, which is Rocastle. But I mean, that it's a different era now, unfortunately. And the teams, there's no team, not even, I don't think, Manchester City or Liverpool, that have a three like that they've brought up from the age of 16 or 18, who are now starring for their club. It just doesn't exist anymore. And that, it's a separate topic, but it makes me a little bit sad. But, hopefully we can get some semblance of regularity for the games that matter with Partey, Xhaka's, I guess, going to be in there whether you like it or not. And Ceballos, Willock, or some third person. But, people don't have time to establish themselves anymore. And that's part of the shit situation of present day football.
It is indeed. Owen,
old man shouting at cloud.
Just your nonsense. Owen, talk us through the first goal, because I take it you've got notes on it.
Yeah, basically, and it's really ironic because on the 38th minute there was sort of a pinball moment in the box, and Eddie didn't really anticipate it. He didn't really commit to putting a foot on it, and it sort of looked like a really bad, clear missed opportunity. And the note was actually Eddie's poor at pinball, and then literally the next note is Eddie's good at pinball. Corner comes in quite scrappy. I would almost put it down to a Dundalk mistake, but look, he was in the right place at the right time and he got the nick on it to put it in the back of the net. It sort of actually made me feel, and this is what I mean when I was quite conflicted with this game. I've never actually felt like that watching an Arsenal game in my whole life, was that when the ball hit the back of the net, I actually felt a bit bad for Dundalk, because whereas, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a while, the Pepe goal is just sheer class, whereas that goal was just unfortunate and down to maybe a little lack of confidence, composure in the box, and I think Eddie's professionalism sort of shone through there. He was the most cool head in a bit of a frantic situation.
Yeah, good though. Good that he scored. Good for him, because if Eddie wouldn't have scored, there is quite a campaign at the moment. I mean, the main campaign is against Arteta, and then it's Pepe, and then it's the usual Xhaka, Mustafi. But Eddie is up there amongst the ones that fans are beginning to get a little bit fed up of, because he's not scoring the goals. But because the goals,
is it a bad thing to just to get known as being a poacher though? I mean, like when I played football as a teenager, when I was about maybe 25 stone less. I scored a ton of goals, but I was not skilled at all. So I had nothing compared to Eddie Nketiah. But like you don't see Ibra type of skill out of him, but he just seems to be in the right place at the right time.
Here's the only problem, and I'll put this question to both of you. Right, and this is the only thing I find frustrating about it is Arteta's, and again, I'm not a Arteta basher. I'm actually a bit of a Arteta dick rider. But Arteta's refusal to play Abba centrally, all right? What does Eddie Nketiah bring in that number 9 position that Abba couldn't do? He isn't a hold-up player. He isn't.
Nothing.
So that's the frustration. It isn't so much, I think, frustration at Eddie. It's frustration at the lack of playing time that Abba's getting in that central position. So that
I don't argue with that, and you could say we've got 180 minutes a week to fill, and Nketiah would be a perfect Thursday night guy to Abba's Saturday and Sunday, but that isn't what we're seeing. I mean, and then where does Lacazette go? But I mean, I don't think my point was more just about the fact that Nketiah is a certain style of player that can be quite useful for a team because he is in the right place at the right time. He may not create a tremendous amount, but he finishes.
Yeah.
Fair enough, I suppose.
And Tom didn't think he'd make it, so I'm obliged to say that.
It's one of the hardest positions to get really good at because that's the only thing you do as a striker, mainly score goals.
Especially as a singular striker, whereas historically we would have seen them maybe paired with somebody with a bit more experience, but really nowadays you're out there on your own, to fend for yourself. So
yeah, he's not playing up in a two like Campbell and Wright, like Giroud would kind of supplement another one of his wings. I mean, he's not that type of player, but if you need goals, he's going to get them.
So Michael Dempsey says even the Pepe goal in the second half, Dundalk did have to stop Arsenal scoring more than they did in the second half. So they did quite well. And Julian Salmondo says, I must be honest, I'm finding myself flickering through the channels and stopping at games that have crowds irrespective of who's playing. Sometimes tonight, Mike, didn't the artificial crowd were getting bored, weren't they? Yeah, I mean, I was watching a game. I guess it was the Spurs game before this, where fireworks started going off in the 84th minute. There were no people in the crowd at Antwerp, but fireworks start going off, which I thought was hilarious, and I also would have been very pissed off at if it had been premature and Spurs had come back. But so. You don't need fans inside the stadium, but you do need an atmosphere surrounding the stadium. It's dreadful. It's absolutely dreadful, and I hope it gets back to normal as soon as possible. But I don't know that I would watch a game because there's fans more than I would a game that I'm actually interested in where there's not fans, though. I mean, that doesn't make much sense to me. Avon has put a little thing in here. He says Lacazette and Eddie are more expendable than Nelson and Pepe in our front three. Discuss.
Disagree.
This is something I was just going to touch on, and it isn't more so Nelson and Pepe. It's actually something that really sort of stood out to me this evening was within our regular first team, let's say Pepe and Aubameyang on the wings, is that Nelson, along with somebody we haven't even mentioned this evening, but because he didn't feature, is Gabriel Martinelli. Is that I think often the problem that I have with our front three is, yes, we're missing that sort of creative midfielder, but if you look at the sort of top sides around Europe, the front three often create for themselves, which ours don't. I don't think Abba is, while he's a fantastic footballer, great finisher, he isn't the best person at running and beating multiple men. And sort of creating his own chances, whereas Reiss Nelson had that in abundance this evening, and so does Gabriel Martinelli. So I think that, like I said earlier, I think often Arteta is playing people in positions just to accommodate them. So he's playing Abba on the left to accommodate Lacazette, but it's not the most efficient thing to do for this system. If you're going to play that sort of playing down the wings, playing wide, you really need that them sort of dribblers that can make things happen. So I would be interested, yes, definitely to see Abba move centrally, someone like Reiss Nelson and Pepe, to credit. I think after he got the goal tonight, it just once again reflected how much this guy's a confidence player. Once that ball hit the back of the net, he just looked like a different player completely. But in the long term, I just can't wait to see Gabriel Martinelli come back, man. The guy's so exciting, and in terms of being unpredictable, having a bit of a wild card within your side to make something happen in a dull game like that, I think there's nobody better to have in your squad than Gabriel Martinelli.
Very true. Before you answer yours, Mike, Carnage 1618 is to subscribe to us on Twitch. Very kind of you. Your thoughts on that, Mike?
Martinelli is, since the moment we saw him play in Denver last year, that guy's had it. And I just, I cannot wait until he gets back. I'm worried about it. A knee injury never, you don't come back from a knee injury the same as you were before a knee injury. So I'm really kind of devastated that he had that kind of an injury at 18. But modern medicine being what it is, hopefully we won't rush him back. And maybe it's not until the run in this season or the beginning of next season, but that guy is a baller. And that's the type of guy where you don't need to spend £60 million on an attacking player because you got the guy for 5 or 4, whatever it was. You know, and you're right. Oh, and I mean, he can create. He can take men off the dribble. Pepe, hopefully, we'll see more final product from him, but he can take men off the dribble. But most of our number 9s can't do that. And you know, and therefore you need a creative player to be able to feed them to a point where they're one-on-one with the keeper. And we that's been our weakest point of our entire season, is that we're just not creating. Mm-hmm. We're relying on set pieces, and we're relying on just can't miss chances, and we're not really creating. And getting those players back will help us with that.
A couple of more notes from the first half. Good corner from Nelson. Goalie jumps to get it. That's the nice for Eddie's goal. Eddie down the right, gives the ball to Pepe. Pepe has a shot, rebounds off the defender into the path of Willock, and Willock puts it in the kind of top right-hand corner, Owen. How it was a wonderful bit of play.
Was the first touch or the finish better?
It was again another sort of sad one, because it was off the back of the Dundalk mistake, a sort of poorly half-hit pass. Eddie drives down the right, squares it to Pepe, who I thought was actually extremely greedy, because that ball to Willock was completely obvious to put him in, clear and open, and I think he was actually quite fortunate for it to fall back to him like that in the way that it did, because I think it would have looked completely bad on his part if that hadn't come off. But in terms of the finish, again, I'll say it. I've been critical of Joe Willock within the past, saying, you know, what difference could he really make to this side? And again, I have to state this: you have to put into context the level of opposition he was playing against today. But it doesn't matter what opposition you're playing against. That finish is world class. You know, I don't think any keeper stopping that. So yeah, no, he deserved to go for the effort he put in today, and it was good to see him get it.
Mike, what part of that goal made you smile the most?
Which one? Oh, no. Honestly, the ability for Willock to control the ball like that. I mean, it wasn't a done deal that he was going to be able to get that down to his feet and play it, but I mean, that to me, the finish was basic. He did it well, but it was basic. But to be able to, I don't even know if he chested it down, or I've already forgotten it. It was 3 hours ago, but just the fact that he was able to control that head, put it down to his feet, and finish it is composed, and that's what you want to see from the player. You're laughing at me now.
No, you're right.
Well, yeah,
you're spot on. Yeah.
I mean, look, that composure. I mean, you don't. That is the type of thing that if 9 times out of 10, you're just going to see it squib by him, or you're going to see him have to hold up in order to get control of the ball, and then by that point, there's 3 defenders in front of it, blocking you from a shot. And Willock took it masterfully.
That's 2 really good ones we've seen. I think Suarez started this trend last season when he came on and scored that goal. Bellerin did one against Leicester, and now he's done one tonight against that. It's as we've seen all season with us, it's most of them put them wide, put them over, put them at the keeper. But when you hit it with that much determination, it's something wonderful to see. And
the finish was good. But I mean, it wasn't. He's got a gaping goal in front of him. All he has to do is just not hit the keeper, which is something that
I watched a video of you taking penalties earlier. Okay, he didn't just have to link it.
Who won that penalty? Who won the penalty shootout? Is what I want to know.
I wasn't looking. I was paying too much attention to Andy's freaky calves. He's got them old man calves.
But Andy had no knees at that time, did he? He was playing with no knees.
He says he had no knees, but his surgery was not until 6 months later. So I won that shit. I won that fair and square.
Such a noise. We got someone from Mexico. He is an Atlas fan and an Arsenal fan, and also Mike Hertz says "Viva Mexico." Who Mike?
I was going to say we have 2 people from Mexico.
Well, Mike's not from Mexico, is he?
I know.
He supports Mexico. There again, don't we all at some point? He's put, a huevo. I don't know how I managed to say that. It might even have sounded correct. I don't know. Anyway,
is that an egg? Huevo is an egg, right?
So he's talking about podcast, not an egg podcast.
I thought a huevo was an egg, and I thought he was talking about your head, Danny.
Talk about your head.
Your head. No, he's talking about your head.
And you bite me. Right. Stats at the end of the first half: 16 shots, 4 on target, 58% possession. That sounds a lot better than it actually is. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, people. I have 4 notes for the second half because I stopped watching. 46th minute, Eoin. Pepe scores. I wasn't even taking any bloody notice. I was watching Stevie on Twitch. So, what happened with the goal? Because I've got no idea.
Another worldie. What do you call it? Eddie drives down, squares the ball into Pepe. Pepe rolls it with his left foot and then strikes it, believe it or not. Right, I'm saying this correctly, with his right foot.
Up just because I haven't seen it.
No, he hits it with his right foot and curls it in right into the Queen's face, postage stamp into the top corner. Absolute worldie.
I hate this, but Yanks would call that upper 90. I cannot stand that, by the way. I'm not saying that, but upper 90 is where Pepe put that.
Yeah,
I don't even know what that means, upper 90, but
90 degrees, you big minge.
Right into the Queen's face. That's what I'm not sure whether that's probably I know the
I like that more.
The political situation over here is a bit strange, so maybe don't use our sayings. But what was I going to say? No, absolutely fantastic goal, and like I mentioned earlier, the bounce that you physically seen from Pepe after that goal hit the back of the net, and his whole demeanour changed, and he looked a completely different player. It was a phenomenal finish. I suggest you go watch the highlights. You're missing out.
I would do, but you lot keep me fucking busy. Michael in Sweden says, absolute beauty of a finish. And from someone from Scandinavia to say something nice about the finish, that's quite rare. You see what I've done there? Avon says, top bins. Avon, you've got it exactly right, sir. So yes, what else am I going to go and do now? No.
Can I just say, Pepe is like such an enigma in the sense that like everyone thinks he's doing great, and he starts shitting the bed for 4 weeks. Everyone is ready to just move on from him and call him a failure, and then he has a finish like he did today. Again, I'm not overestimating. I'm not talking about the opposition. I'm not talking about anything. Can people just like get behind him and
just
chillax and like chill and realize that the guy's got talent. It's just that he's settling.
It's not that. It's not that. It's somebody.
Not every 72 million pound player needs to settle, but like he clearly does. So
I forget who explained it in this way the other day, but it was a very good way of explaining it. Is that there's open space players and there's closed space players, and it's that if you look at the likes of Santi Cazorla is a closed space player, plays in the pockets, nice, while it's quite compact, and he's brilliant at playing out of them. And then you've got your open space players like an Aubameyang, like a Pepe, who need space to drive into to be effective. And I think that within this system and within the systems that we often see used by opposition sort of counter what they're very good at, which is why we often see these guys be ineffective during games, is because the opposition are nullifying our players' strengths, and while they're not sort of completely contained to just that sort of punt the ball long and run after it, that often is the most effective way. And I think for Nicola Pepe to sort of flourish, you really need somebody playing the ball in front of him so he has space to run. Whereas when we often see Pepe, he's receiving the ball deep with his back to goal, and he's not very effective at doing that. So I think it's more so that we need to sort of adjust our system to suit him, but I don't think we'll see that really until we have that sort of creative, because that's a note that I have made 6 or 7 times during this, is that it's really frustrating that the lack of a center attacking midfielder is still an issue the whole way through that game, and it was just really, really frustrating to see. Even though it was a positive result, it was quite evident throughout that entire 90 minutes.
I'm shocked that you guys take so many notes during the game. I mean, I write notes to myself like 60th minute. I really got to go to the bathroom. so that like at the end of the game, I remember that I had to go to the bathroom. And like, I don't, the toilet, sorry. I just, you guys are analytical AF.
I don't remember. Like I said to John hosted the weekend one. I said, John, are you making notes? He went, all in the noggin. I said, I barely get past the first 5 minutes because I instantly forget it all. Like, I can't remember most of the 50 years that I've been alive. I don't remember most of it. I could wear at times. I feel
go look at your notes.
Yeah, I will do.
Mike almost came to Cambridge to meet me, and then like 2 years later, you got another note. Mike almost again came to Cambridge to meet me.
Well, don't do what Jeff from Canada did and get the train from London to Cambridge, because then Sean will have to come and pick you up from Cambridge.
Right. No, I'll go to what's the name of the stop? And I'll visit you in God Manchester. I was going to make it last March until goddamn COVID came into play. I was really coming that time.
We had plans. I forgot Kaiser is also in Sweden. Don't have anything against the Finnish. Those potato choking Danes, though. Oh, Mr. Bentner, that was for you. Hold on, we had.
My mate there, Has from Dundalk, is he? Oh, he's a local boy. There's a guy there, Has in the chat. Jesus, lads, Dundalk is my hometown. There he is. Well, boy.
It's my hometown on Sunday League Ireland, team in Ireland. What happened? There you go.
That's a little, what do they play on the Hackney Marshes?
Data has put the upper 90 is the roof of the net, the horizontal section, the parallel to the ground. Top bins is just the top of the goal frame, although it can include the upper 90 of the net.
That's true. That is true. So upper 90 is harder than top bins.
There you go.
Willock's was top bins.
The stanchion
Pepe was upper 90. Mind you, I hate all of those expressions.
Fantasy football, you silly.
Who is that?
That's my echo saying, this is a reminder, fantasy football, you silly bitch. Because fantasy football people, as is a game on Friday. Echo, shut up.
Don't get us started about fantasy football.
Fantasy football window closes Thursday night, people. So
you don't play that, do you, Danny?
I am top of the league with no Man United, no Liverpool, no Chelsea, no Spurs. Anyway, enough of that. We're moving on.
Yay! Yay! Firmino scored. So my weekend isn't a complete waste. Firmino scored. Fuck.
Poor Mike Hurst is sitting in his StreamYard lobby. Where are these guys?
Oh, jeez, are we already late?
What time is he starting at?
15:15, I think.
Yeah, we've got a quarter of an hour. Plenty of time. Not even that kind of.
Just joking.
Here we go. Data been nice again. I like Pepe. Who cares how much he costs? The squad as a whole is the 4th in the Premier League in wages. Should be looking to finish near 4th. If everyone thinks the money is the most important thing, I would say to that Data that it's exactly the same as the Mesut Ozil thing. If Ozil was on 50 grand a week, no one would give a fuck. If Pepe cost £20 million, no one would give a fuck. I think that's the gist of it. We don't pay it.
She's making sense. She's making sense tonight. I mean, look. Forget transfer fees. The wage bill, which is supposed to actually include transfer fees prorated over the course of the contract, that should be a sign of where you should expect to finish. Now, if you don't like what we're spending, that's a different story, a different conversation.
You should not be talking finances. All I'm going to say is $10 million.
Look, man, I gave it back. Okay, I gave it back.
That's not how the law works, my boy.
We've got an A-lister in the chat.
Who's in there?
Oh, look! Former ABW, yeah.
It's Mr. Canton. Who's that Irish bloke you've got on? I've seen him somewhere before.
I'm going to start demanding a commission every time that you have Owen on, because Owen is his podcasting version of Marco Asensio.
He's my boss. He's just coming in to make sure I'm not making an arse out of him. He sort of keeps tabs on me and makes sure that I'm not letting the side down. Unlike yourself, he's just
what percentage does he? What percentage does he take? Because Andy takes like 80% of mine.
Of what?
Money.
Your money. I thought you were talking about something else there.
My appearance fee. Yeah.
Travis says it's Robbie Keane. I think Tom. That's wrong part of Ireland, but never mind. It's I think. Here we go. David, Mr. Waffle said, it's frustrating to see the way a lot of our squad aren't playing to their strengths. Talking of strengths, I'm going to swiftly move on to, we've talked about that goal. I'm going to do this because who was the person in there, the Oxford fan? They said, if you talk about Bellerin, he is going to subscribe to the channel. And that 99p could be essential for me. So
every P is essential to you.
I want us to talk about Bellerin. Why did he leave it so long? When we're 3-0 up is the note I've made. Why did he leave it so long before bringing Bellerin on? Who wants to talk about that?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not an expert on Bellerin. He's not somebody I've seen a massive amount of. The only one thing I would say is that statistically, when you look at that's him. If you look at Ballaghan's under 23 record in comparison with Eddie Nketiah's record is outstanding. It's far more superior to that of Ballaghan's. And you see the difficulties that even Eddie's having integrating into first team football within the Premier League. I think that we need a sort of cooler jets when it comes to Bellerin and our expectations with him. To be honest with you, with the price tags that were being thrown about with this kid during the summer, I would have possibly been open to see him leave. We were talking about, but we were talking about a £10 million bid from Sheffield United coming in that, for a player who hasn't even featured for the first team, that's, outstanding profit to be making. So in terms of...
You see him sold for 50 by the team that buys him for 10.
Yeah, but you can't say that with every player and hold on to people who aren't assets. We've seen that too long, that our assets sort of stagnate and start to lose value over time, just because, like, the one everybody uses is Serge Gnabry. Serge Gnabry always sold him, we shouldn't have sold him. But if... No,
I don't buy that, but I mean, you can look at Daniel Malin, you can look at Jeff Van Adelaide.
Yeah, but if you look back to the time, Mike, it's that you have to judge each situation at the time that it happened, and those guys weren't showing enough progression. The squad was too congested. We had other people in those positions that sort of showed more promise. So I don't think you can sort of hold either the board or the youth system accountable for the outgoings. Like Serge Gnabry, I remember getting so frustrated with Serge Gnabry, and I think often what you have to remember as well, and people don't take this into account enough, is often look at the players that leave the Premier League and go to these different leagues and then they flourish. But then look at a lot of the players that come from foreign leagues into the Premier League and they really struggle. So there's nothing saying that they're just more suited to that standard of football, So maybe their progression never would have taken off if they hadn't have made that move.
The Gnabry thing, I mean, trust me, because Tom and my joke about how Nketiah would never make it at Arsenal was linked with the fact that I was claiming that who could have known that Serge Gnabry was going to be what he was. You could say that you knew what he was going to be, but when we sold him for 3 or 4 or 5 million pounds, no one knew that, and it wasn't going to happen because his head wasn't in the right place. So I'm not the guy that says we should have kept Serge Gnabry because he's banging in goals for Bayern Munich right now, because it's two different players, two different time frames. Balogun, I'll never forget where I first heard about Eddie Nketiah, and it was from this guy. 2016, because he used to spend time talking about the under 23s, loan players. I mean, the format of the pod as we were honing our craft, everything was about how Eddie Nketiah had scored a brace or a hat trick, or he scored another goal in the youth team, and that's where I first became aware of him. And Balogun's kind of got that same pedigree, maybe not quite to the same extent, but he's a guy that's too good for his U18, and I just want to see him progress. I want to see. I mean, we don't have to constantly buy £55 million strikers. If we could get Nketiah, Balogun, or both to a £5 million Martinelli, if we can get them to lead the line, we don't have to constantly spend money there, and we can spend it in places where it belongs, like the rest of the spine. And so Balogun playing tonight, I think, was huge for me. I was joking around about you should have started. He's going to score a brace. I've never literally watched him play football before tonight. So, look, I'm a little bit of the.
He's one of your lot, though, isn't he? He's American.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's New York. He's born in New York, born and raised in New York.
Yeah.
Was he?
He's represented the USA and the UK, England in football, and I think the US want to get him as a.
That's absurd. I did not even realize that. Most of the players that the U.S. nicks are like an eighth German, but we don't get many that are English
So that's three Americans who have played for Arsenal. We've had Danny Cabassion.
Zellem was never going to be good enough for Arsenal. I watched him play 6 years ago this week in a U21 game at Boreham Wood against Birmingham, and I came away from that game thinking he's not ready. He'll never be ready. Iwobi looks like a beast, and Matt Macy is shit at distributing the ball. That's what I came away from that game with. And yeah, I mean, you could just tell in Zellem's eyes that he was like a kid. He was 16 going on 12. Balogun, I'm excited to see him. I really don't know that much about him on the as far as his mentality is concerned. But I mean, if he can be a regular in the Europa League this year, he wants to leave because he wasn't getting the playing time. So if we can give him that this season, I think that's a major step forward. Mm-hmm. Future Ballon d'Or winner is what I'm saying.
Okay, right. Owen, round off the rest of the game because I made almost no more notes other than that Balogun's going to run the defenders ragged if he gets the time.
He didn't really do that much once he came on, did he?
There was one particular part, I think, on the 75th minute that really sort of sealed the man of the match award for me, and that was Reiss Nelson. I think Dundalk had a set piece free kick maybe. Nelson received the ball deep, probably about a quarter of the way up the pitch from our goal, and he persisted to beat about 3 to 4 players running the whole length of the pitch. And for me, down. Yeah, and for me, that's what really sort of tipped my sort of judgment on Reiss Nelson as to what he can actually bring to the side. As I said, that's something we completely lacked the whole time. Again, as I said, 20 attempts on goal, I think 6 on target at that stage at the 70th minute. I've written down again, the lack of calm is still annoying me. Then Nelson, 84th minute, Nelson shot, man of the match, no doubt. And then on the 86th minute, Willock should have had a penalty running down that left channel, trying to make a run into the box. I think it was Balogun was sitting square from him at that time. And the Dundalk right back really had a firm grip of his shirt, which continued into the box. But I think maybe the Dundalk just sort of had a bit of sympathy for Dundalk at that stage and let them away with it, basically, essentially. And apart from that, it was just a lot of side to side, back and forth. Arsenal were really just sort of riding the wave of that 3-0 scoreline and just seeing it out, really.
As I put down, it was Willock and Nelson playing like the Harlem Globetrotters taking the piss.
Mm-hmm. It was, yeah. It was that. Yeah, it was definitely that type of relationship there. But as I said, yeah, them two were the most inspirational players, which is brilliant, because I think that in my eyes, and I think in many people's eyes, I thought they were really going to struggle to make any kind of impact in our squad this season. So it was good to see something that I think they've often lacked, is to take the opportunities, the few ones that they're given. They sort of often have a bit of a lackluster demeanour about them, but they definitely didn't have that tonight. So maybe they're starting to realise that they're really only at the beginning of their careers and not really cemented into any sort of first team football, which is the type of attitude I think they both need to succeed.
Yes. Hernandez is giving out the mobile version of his YouTube channel. Right, that is us done. Man of the match, everybody put in the chat box what your man of the match is. Also, if you go to that YouTube channel, that is where we are going to be on next. That is Not Another Arsenal Podcast, which is Mike Hernandez and a few others. Yes, everybody put your man of the match.
Go watch that, because Mike is one of the more class people I have met in this journey of being an Arsenal supporter. I said one of. I didn't say the only, Owen.
Oh,
once I learn your name, you'll be one of them as well. You got to watch this, because there's not enough Arsenal podcasts in the industry right now, and so we have to support all the new ones that keep coming out.
Mike's put Runnison, Avon's put Willock, Julian says Willock, Data's put Pepe, Mike has put not Mike, and I would personally go with Willock.
The only downside about Mike Hers is that he likes jazz. That's the problem. I mean, but if you can get past that, his podcast will be entertaining, at least tonight.
He likes jazz. Dead to me.
He does. He likes jazz.
But shush, answer the question. Man of the match. I'm going with Willock, although I did love seeing Nelson run through like you were saying, Owen, but who are you picking?
Reiss Nelson, yeah. I think I've explained it in enough detail as to why, definitely brilliant performance from Reiss.
Mike, who are you picking?
I'll go with Pepe because anybody that can hit side netting and top bins is going to be my man of the match for me.
Very good. Right. So
it's between him and Runnerson. Runnerson just looks so commanding, and Bellerin.
He looks like a 12-year-old. So go to that link. That is the YouTube link to Mike's podcast. This one I'm putting here is the link to Owen's podcast, the Arsenal Crack podcast. What's the Twitter for it, Owen?
Gunner Crack. So crack, you'll see it spelled down there.
You have to spell it for Americans who are going to be looking like they think it's a drug reference.
Yeah, C-R-A-I-C, crack.
In English, that is C-R-A-I-C. Jesus, don't get an Irishman to try and use vowels correctly.
When I turn around and I look at the mirror, I see a Gunner Crack. That's a different kind of.
Mike, where can they not find your podcast?
You cannot find our podcast at if you want to find our podcast, you can go to goonersubscribe.com, which is a weird little link that takes you to our YouTube page. But on Twitter, it's at the Gooners Pod. If you feel like donating money to a charity that is currently paused on fundraising, but we'll always accept it, it's at the Gooners v Cancer. Thank you to Owen for being such a great member of that. Thank you to you, Danny, for being a great supporter of that.
And forgetting to donate.
Look, you donate with your charm and your good looks.
Yeah, I mean, I still owe you money though.
I'm sure a family that's suffering from leukemia will be comforted by knowing that Danny is attractive and cares.
That's very fine words. Right, we're going to go now. You know where to go and find us. Thank you very much to everybody who watched. Thank you very much, Owen. Thank you very much, Mike.
Arsenal's back. We're back.
Indeed.
Till Sunday, we're back.
And you'll catch us again on Sunday. It's going to be it will be John, maybe me, maybe somebody else. We don't know yet. Thank you very much for watching. We have been a Bergkamp Wonderland. And Pepe scored a goal. Bye-bye.
Jesus, he just left.
Yeah, we have to go to his stream now.
All right.